Welcome to the Eye Test, a fantasy football podcast for those who are tired of hearing boring stats all the time. This is episode 24. John is back from vacation, and we have an extremely special episode for you tonight. We are doing fantasy football awards, and every single award has their own special name to it. You might get some of the references off the bat, but we'll explain them to you just in case you need it. So let's just get it started right off the bat. The Jamarcus Russell Award, and honestly, I'm not even going to explain what that means. Everyone should know what that means. So, John, why don't you lead us off with who won your Jamarcus Russell Award?
Yes, first of all, just want to say amazing fantasy season to you guys. We finally made it to the semifinals of fantasy playoffs. And real quick, before we get into the Jamarcus Russell Award, which is the biggest bust of the year, if you haven't figured that out, what a weekend of sports. And I'm not just talking fantasy sports. I'm talking the NFL, the World Cup. Like the most comebacks, I think, of all season long, and we had the biggest comeback in the history of the sport on Saturday or Thursday or whatever.
I think it was Saturday.
It was Saturday, yeah. That's when I lost all my money.
And then it just goes into a head-clashing match between me and Bobby in the first round of the playoffs. Goes all the way to the final second of Monday Night Football. And for once, I took the W in the playoffs.
Finally.
For the third time in a row, Bob lost by less than a point.
All great streaks must come to an end. This is going to be the first year in our fantasy football's existence that I won't finish in the top three.
Wow.
Are
you rooting for me to win now, Bob?
I just don't want JT to win. Ooh. That's it.
See, I don't want Elwell to win because you just can't have that team and win the entire thing. You can't.
That's true. But nevertheless, good for you, John. I'm honestly happy for you. You're one of those people in our league that I don't mind losing to.
So you lost me twice.
Yeah. For some reason, it seems this year my team always drastically underperformed against your team. But nevertheless, we're moving on. Let's start off with that Jamarcus Russell Award from John.
Certainly. Biggest bust of the year. We've all forgotten about this player's fantasy relevancy. He didn't have much going into the season, but everyone thought because he was going on this new team that he was going to be very good. And that is Chase Edmonds.
Wow.
That's a good one.
He was ranked as probably like the 20th or 30th best running back going into the year this year, which would put him at the RB2, RB3 level. Some people thought he was going to be around that value. A lot of people, including myself, thought he was going to be better and really fit into the Dolphins' offense. So he was around like a 5th or 6th round pick. However, in our league, he was reached on in the 3rd round as the 17th running back taken off the board.
That's crazy.
Any guesses as to what he finished as in terms of running back rankings?
I'm going to say this is just a dart throw. 89.
Is it egregious for me to think that he's a triple-digit RB at the end of the year?
It is, yeah. He was the RB 62.
Okay. I was going to say the RB 69 just for giggles.
No. So whether you reached for him in the 3rd round or if you drafted him at his value, you are extremely disappointed. Players that you could have taken instead of Chase Edmonds. And I tried to stick to players that were like obvious that you could have gotten in the 3rd round, not like the crazy guys that blew up in the 12th or whatever. So you could have gotten Keenan Allen over Chase Edmonds, Jalen Waddle, David Montgomery, Breece Hall.
Wow.
And I'm sure Breece Hall still has more points than Chase Edmonds this year.
Probably.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, Scary Terry, and Josh Jacobs.
Wow.
That's the biggest sleeper of them all, Josh Jacobs. We'll get to him later. But Chase Edmonds, biggest bust of the year. He is fantasy irrelevant for the rest of his career.
Yeah. Very huge disappointment. And I did completely forget about him because he's been irrelevant for that long. He pretty much only had one noteworthy game, and it wasn't even really a noteworthy game. He just scored 2 touchdowns like in the red zone, but did nothing else besides that. Yep. So that's a good one. That's a real good one. Paul, are you going to shock us with someone like that, or is it someone a little more obvious?
Mine's a little more obvious, but I first want to say that, like John said, what an amazing season. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it to in our league, but what's the age-old saying? There's always next year. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But it was a fantastic season. Really enjoyed myself. There were some good moments and there were some bad moments, specifically for this player that I'm about to name. And this guy coming out of the draft was supposed to be the next Tony Gonzalez. He was already being dubbed a Hall of Famer before he even put on a professional jersey, and that is Kyle Pitts. I feel absolutely horrendous for you if you reach for him in the third round, which I believe somebody did in our league, unless it was another league I'm in. But I've actually made a deal with myself that this will be the last time I talk about Kyle Pitts willingly, because I am just so tired of hearing the comparisons with the town, of hearing that he's about to break out, of hearing this, of hearing that. You can blame the system, you can blame whoever you want, but the dude just isn't producing and honestly looks lost on a football field professionally. So I'm done with Kyle Pitts. He's been an absolute bust. I'm going to just name some random players, and you tell me if you think that they scored more points than Kyle Pitts in the 11 weeks that Kyle Pitts was healthy. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm sure it's yes to every question.
Yeah. Cade Otton.
Yeah.
Oh, obviously. Yeah, rookie out of Tampa Bay?
Yep.
Jeez.
No. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had him for a little bit this year.
Yep, he's looking good.
Yeah.
Chigazium Okawonu.
Oh, on the Titans?
Damn, how do you guys know these guys? I had no idea who these guys were.
I'm active on the waiver wire, bro. I'm in the semifinals, baby.
That's why Paul misses the playoffs.
Oh, come on. All right, and Isaiah Likely had 2 relevant football games and still finished 8 points underneath Kyle Pitts.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Kyle Pitts had a total. Kyle Pitts had a total of 75.6 fantasy points this year, and he only put up double digits in 3 games, but one of them was a 10-point game. So he barely scratched the surface there. So yeah, I'm throwing Kyle Pitts in there. This just goes to show, we've been saying this all year, that unless your name is Travis Kelce, I'm not taking you in the first, second, or third round. I refuse to do that now. And I know we're big on positional advantages, but I just don't think there is one at the tight end besides Travis Kelce.
I would say maybe the closest to it right now. Of course, he has been injured, but Dallas Goedert, he really helps with the positional advantage next to Travis Kelce. I know the gap is pretty big between the two, but
the gap's
you don't have Kelce. Goedert might be the best option. Kelce's going to be a top 5 pick next year, guys. And unless the Chiefs were to get like
top
another
5,
receiver, top 5.
No way.
Top 5. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be a running back in the top 5 next year.
Oh, I disagree with you heavily.
Everyone, maybe Austin Eckler, but I think everyone's catching on. The wide receivers score way more points than running backs this year.
We're definitely transitioning, I feel like, and that's something probably we'll talk about a little down the road in the off season and stuff. But I feel like we're definitely transitioning into more of a wide receiver, like heavy top of the draft now. Like people aren't going to be as like, I need to get a running back as early as possible anymore. Because I think people are realizing now that even though running backs are still more scarce than wide receivers, the gap now has closed so much, and probably wide receivers have even exceeded top running backs at this point. Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, just to name a couple. So, yeah, I feel like we're definitely transitioning. And going along with that narrative, I'm going to name my Jamarcus Russell Award winner. And this is a guy that I actually traded for earlier in the season in our redraft league. He actually got me to where I was and ended up being. But, man, overall was he just a big disappointment. And that is Alvin Kamara.
Oof.
I think it's the end of Alvin Kamara's prime.
Yeah, actually, I do agree with you. I don't think he is ever going to be the guy that he once was. He's definitely not going to be a second-round pick next year. He'll probably end up being drafted in mid-range RB2 territory, I think, at this point. And just going over his stats this year. So in standard leagues, he was the RB24. In PPR leagues, he was the RB16. But honestly, the only reason he's even in that position is because he had a 42-point game in week 8. And outside of that game, his only biggest game was a 23-point game. And other than that, it's been, dude, he's had more single-digit games than double-digit point games. So extremely disappointing season from him. I think a lot of it had to do with the Saints coaching staff not playing to his strengths, not throwing him the ball as much out of the backfield. But even though he's been getting a lot of carries and stuff, but he just hasn't been that effective running the ball, quite frankly. And I think we're transitioning to him being out of his prime at this point. And yeah, it's not good for him. Maybe
do his stonks go up if the Saints get an actual quarterback in the offseason? Is that all he's missing? Someone who can check down?
It's not the quarterback. It's the coaching staff. Because the Saints were really bad this year, obviously. But it's not like he rushed the ball 21 times against the Falcons, who have a soft defense, to say the least. 21 times for 91 rushing yards. It's less than 5 yards a carry. It's a low fours in carries. And if Alvin Kamara is not getting those catches out of the backfield, he's a mid-range running back too, at best.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, Bob. What made Kamara so special is that he would catch 10 passes out of the backfield in a game. And he was a PPR wonder boy for the longest time. And I wonder how I do agree with you that coaching has a lot to do with it. And I think Drew Brees' little pea shooter at the end of his career, I mean, they had to draw up plays for Kamara to get the ball just because Brees couldn't push it down the field. But it is disappointing. And Kamara is, unfortunately, he will be the dreaded 28 years old by next season.
Oh, that's a big age for running backs. That really drives that point home about him being done as prime.
But I disagree with that whole narrative because I think Derrick Henry is going to be fine.
Yeah, I think Derrick Henry is an absolute. Derrick Henry's like almost 29, 30, but Derrick Henry is an anomaly in my opinion.
Yeah, he's an outlier.
Like Derrick Henry's probably going to end up being like the Frank Gore of his era. I think he's just going to be going for. He's never gets hurt. He got hurt once last year. Other than that, he never gets hurt. Keeps himself in amazing shape, and they just know how to use him in that offense. Whereas with the Saints, they just, not that they don't know, maybe they're not willing to, but I think that like narrative is a little played out, but I'd say it definitely applies more often than not. But Derrick Henry will still probably be a first-round pick next year.
Totally.
I think so.
Yeah.
You calling him Frank Gore just made John, if John gets the 1 out of 1 next year, he's going to take him with the first pick. John's all hot and bothered about that. Ooh, Frank Gore.
But before we move on to our next award, honorable mentions for this award, there's so many, but honorable mentions from me go to Jonathan Taylor, everyone's first overall pick, who had a shit year, and another first-round pick that had a couple decent games, but definitely was not as good as he was last year, and that's Najee Harris. And do you guys have any honorable mentions before we move on?
I kind of want to put Joe Mixon in there, but...
Me too, I was thinking it.
I know, but
he was a first-round pick.
He was, but he's a back-end first-round pick, and he's still sitting at the 33rd best overall fantasy player.
I wouldn't say he's a bust. But
he did have he had like a 55-point game that completely inflates his stats. But out of the guys we just mentioned, can we come to a consensus on who we agree deserves? We'll take home the Jamarcus Russell Award.
I think it's easily Jonathan Taylor. You can't be drafted first overall and only have 2 20-point games the entire season.
Yeah. That's a bust, dude.
We'll give it to Jonathan Taylor, but we didn't talk about him too much because I think everybody knows it, and people who drafted him are tired of hearing it.
Exactly. So let's move on now to a very exciting award. I think this is going to be one that we talk about for a while, is the Peyton Hillis Award.
You guys remember him?
Oh, yeah. Madden cover, baby.
Madden cover after his first and only good year. Madden decides to throw him on there. What did he do the next year? Bust. So that's what this award is. It's the one-hit wonder. Cue Paul with the Got Ye song.
Now you're just somebody that I used to know.
Somebody.
Nice.
So that's Peyton Hillis. And I'm going to start it off and ask you guys, who was great last year for their first time in their career, whether they were a rookie standout or maybe they've been in the league for a bit. They finally had a breakout season last year. Their value was super high this year. You were expecting an even bigger leap, and they just shit the bed. They were a rotten tomato, some may say, from
I like that.
episodes.
I like that.
So I'll go last. Paul, who was your Peyton Hillis Award nominee for this year?
So my guy that I'm about to mention is, I want to first say I'm not even sure if it's his fault. There's a mixture of things that happened this year for him. But my guy is Hunter Renfrow. I mean, we watched him catch 100 passes last year. We watched him be Derek Carr's go-to guy. He ran really crispy routes. He was playing really well. And then whether it's Josh McDaniels comes to town, whether it's the emergence of Josh Jacobs, or whether it's, I don't know if you guys know this guy, Devontae Adams. He actually joined the Raiders this year as well.
Good at football. Very good at football.
He's pretty good at football. Yeah, Devontae Adams is pretty good at football. So my heart breaks that I have to give this to Hunter Renfrow because I was really high on him this year. I thought he was going to be the number 2 option in Vegas, and I thought that he was still had that rapport with Derek Carr that he was still going to play really well. I know he got hurt, but even before his injury, he was playing like absolute McBuns cheeks. And so I
Is that a reference to McDaniel?
No, but that's actually really good. That is a happy accident. That is what we call a happy accident right there. But yeah, Hunter Renfrow, it breaks my heart that I have to give you this award because I think you are not a bad football player, but you were absolute donkey shit this year.
McBuns cheeks.
McBuns cheeks off the McDollar menu from
Bob,
McDaniels.
Who is your Peyton Hillis nominee? That's a good one, Paul, by the way. I agree with that.
I think so. This guy isn't going to be considered a bust or that he really sucked this year, but more of I don't think he's ever going to have the season he had last year. And that is Deebo Samuel of the San Francisco 49ers, another guy that I actually had in our redraft league. I actually kept him this year, traded him for Alvin Kamara. But he's been consistent, puts up double digits pretty much every time he gets out there, missed a game or two to injury, but he just didn't have any of those boom games this year at all. He's barely, in PPR, he's not even cracking the wide receiver 2 territory. And same thing in standard, he's barely cracking the wide receiver 2 territory. And he was being drafted as a wide receiver 1 in the mid to early second round. So just really wasn't there for him this year. And I think that's more of nothing to do with him really, but more the offense that he's in, with the Niners bringing in Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk getting out of the doghouse, and just that Kyle Shanahan offense wasn't running out of the backfield as much. Just a really big disappointment from Deebo Samuel this year. Although a lot of people were already calling for it, I was on the optimistic side. And I ended up having to trade him because it just wasn't working out. So, Deebo, I'm sorry. You're still a great NFL player. You're still fantasy relevant, but you probably will never hit those wide receiver 1 numbers again.
Unless, like, now that CMC is on the team, I'm wondering if, I don't know what Deebo's contract situation looks like, but I can see him being one of the guys that is trying to call for a trade if that's what his contract.
He just signed a new deal in the offseason.
You're right, because that was the rumor all offseason that Deebo was trying to get traded, right? And then he
almost got traded to the Jets for the 10.
The Ravens were inquiring hard about him too.
What did Deebo sign though? A 2-year extension?
I think it was like 4.
Yeah.
4 or 5.
Yeah, that's going to be tough to trade out of.
Yeah.
That really sucks for Deebo.
Deebo's getting his bag, so he doesn't.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't care that much, but the big thing with Deebo Samuel for me is it's the definition of touchdown regression. I mean, how many freaking touchdowns did that guy have last year?
And rushing yard.
Exactly. He had at least 7 rushing touchdowns.
He had a lot.
And you do the math, quick math, was 7 times 6.
42.
That's a good chunk of points that can change you from a wide receiver 1 to a wide receiver 2 very quickly.
Yeah. He only has 2 touchdowns this entire year. 2.
Wow.
Whoa. Deebo stonks up next year then when everybody else is down on him? He can't
score in the 5th or 6th round as my flex, as my third wide receiver.
Yeah. I wouldn't feel, depending on who else you draft, I would feel okay with him maybe as a wide receiver too, but there's not a shot in hell that he's getting drafted in the top 3 rounds next year. He's probably looking more at like, 6th, 5th, 6th round. Because again, like Brandon Ayuk has been solid this year. He's looked, honestly, the eye test tells me that Brandon Ayuk is better than Debo right now. So they're both probably going to be drafted in the same range, but that Kyle Shanahan offense is just unpredictable. It could be anyone that goes off any given week. Obviously, CMC is going to be there a full year too, which is still going to take away points from him. So more of a situation that I'd rather stay away from, honestly, if you want some very early draft advice for next year.
And he's also had 3 quarterbacks throwing to him this year too, which can probably be pretty frustrating for wide receivers. I will give it to Debo though. Haven't heard much like whining from Debo this year, like the other wide receivers. Like Elijah Moore bitches more than Debo, and Debo is on a whole another level of skill than Elijah Moore.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny to see these. I don't want to say bad, but like low end wide receivers bitch about getting the ball.
Well, he's also on a good team, and he got paid in the offseason. And he has a quarterback that could at least get him the ball.
Fair.
John, go ahead with your Peyton Hillis. Who is your one-hit wonder?
For sure. Actually, this guy also has had 3 quarterbacks throwing to him over the course of the last 2 years. And I feel like I've spoken about him a lot in terms of get that corn out of my face segments. I feel like all of our one-hit wonders we've spoken about on our get that corn out of my face. And that is Deontay Johnson. I think this is his 4th or 5th year in the NFL. He's actually, one good thing about Deontay Johnson is he remains very healthy. So he is like a good bench stash. I will stand by that. But last year was his big year where he finally had over 107 catches, which was an improvement from the year previous. I believe he had like high 80s with Big Ben. Last year, he had 107 with Big Ben and 8 touchdowns. And then once Big Ben moved on, Deontay was just a consistent low ceiling player. Like he was good for 10 points every game just about. Whether it was Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky throwing him the ball, he was good for 10 points. He's a wide receiver 3 this year, and he was drafted in the 3rd round. At the end of the 3rd round.
Really?
Early to mid 4th. I reached a little bit, so I would say I'm a little bit of an outlier. So I would give him like 4th round value, and he's a wide receiver 3. And he did not have that big playability until fucking the last 2 weeks when I was going to say. It's ridiculous, dude. It's ridiculous. Of course he decides to go off. That's my Peyton Hillis award because, again, you get a receiver that breaks 100 catches. You expect him to at least do it one more time in his career. And a huge touchdown regression, too. He went from, in 2020, he had 7 touchdowns and 88 catches. In 2021, he had 107 catches and 8 touchdowns. And now, I'm not even sure he has 3 touchdowns. Yeah. I don't even think he has
1 or 2.
Deontay Johnson was never worthy of a Madden cover, but neither was fucking Peyton Hillis. So
agreed.
Peyton Hillis.
They were just like, we got to do something nice for the Browns. Let's just put this guy on there.
Peyton Hillis that season was absolutely crazy. I had him in one of the leagues that I was in. It was a big league too. It was a 14-team league, so it was massive. Having a guy like that carried us all the way to, I believe it was the championship game, and then completely shit the bed the last week of the season.
That cursed
just that's classic. All these guys that come out of nowhere never end up performing the entire year. Yeah, when it matters most.
So I have a question for you guys. Just like how we did the one-hit wonder, the player that was good last year that sucked this year, who do you think, if you were to predict the Peyton Hillis Award for next year, who had their breakout year for the first time this year that you think is going to be a bust next year? Paul?
Ooh. This actually pains me to say because I have this young man in Dynasty, and I think that he's an awesome talent. I think he runs the ball extremely hard and extremely well, but it's just the factors around him are absolutely horrible. And he kind of reminds me of Philip Lindsay's rookie year when Philip Lindsay ran for 1,000 yards and then for whatever reason just never saw a football field again.
Philip Lindsay Award.
Yeah, we could transition the future one to that, but we'll talk about it. But my guy is Dameon Pierce. And
really?
I like that.
I can just see it. He's entering the IR to end the season. I don't exactly know what injury he has, but whenever a young rookie running back gets hurt at the end of the year, it's just never a good sign. And even if you draft him with high capital next year, you're going to be worried. But depending on the seriousness of the injury, if it's like a high ankle sprain that just the Texans are obviously done, like they're not going to rush him back, then don't worry about it. But if it's something actually serious, this is definitely something to monitor. And you might not want to spend a high draft capital on him next year. But the Texans are an awful football team that are not going to improve much next year and are not going anywhere anytime fast. So I really hope this doesn't happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if it did.
Yeah, Damien, I was going to say that too, Paul, once you mentioned his name, when I had some time to think about it. Like, he is on a dog shit team where that game script is just never going to favor Dameon Pierce. The only thing that helps him is that he is a receiving running back, so game script doesn't necessarily matter per se, where it's like they can just throw the ball to Dameon Pierce, which actually helps your case, but it's not like they have the line to protect him in the second level of the defense. They don't have the quarterback. Maybe they'll get one in the offseason. Who knows? The more you say it, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and so for those who are listening that have him on Dynasty, I am in no means saying to cut him or saying to look to trade him, because the potential and the upside is still there. But just don't put all your eggs in Dameon Pierce's basket. Don't be going selling Cooper Kupp or Stephon Diggs if you have these proven veterans that can still win you good matchups next year. Don't be selling the house for Dameon Pierce. That's all I'm saying.
I got a good one.
Let's hear yours, Bob.
Got a good one. And this guy, he definitely had his breakout year this year, but he was somewhat relevant before he changed teams this season. And this is a Jaguars wide receiver. And this is going to be more of my reasoning behind this. He's going to be more of a victim of what the Jags have coming back next year than him just not performing well or anything like that. And that is Christian Kirk.
Oh, I thought you were going to go somebody else.
No, so the reason that I could go probably, if you're thinking Zay Jones, I could maybe say Zay Jones, but he's not as high up in the rankings.
True. Yeah, he's not as relevant this year.
But so Christian Kirk is the wide receiver 10 in PPR. Wide receiver 10.
Good for him, man.
That's a wide receiver 1. So my main reasoning behind this is one player that's coming back who is a proven bona fide stud when he's on the field and not gambling on his team to win. And that is Calvin Ridley. He's coming back next year, assuming that everything checks out and everything like that. So the Jags are going to have Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Zay Jones, Travis Etienne. There's not going to be enough volume for Christian Kirk with all those other mouths to feed for Christian Kirk to put up wide receiver 1 numbers again. I just don't believe it. I think Calvin Ridley is going to overtake that status. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets back into wide receiver 1 territory next year. And Christian Kirk had a really great year, but Trevor Lawrence seems to be ascending, and I think he's going to spread the ball around a lot. And this kind of seems like it's probably going to be a one-hit wonder for Kirk. Could still be very good next year. Could still maybe sneak his way into wide receiver 2 territory, but definitely not going to be a wide receiver 1.
Wow. Okay. All right. Mine honestly might get this podcast shut down. You guys are probably going to be like, what the fuck? Why do you
hear it?
John loves doing these.
I did some back end research here that I think if I just say the name and that's it, you guys would think I'm crazy, but just hear me out. So he did great at the end of the season last year, which had everyone on his radar in the draft this year. But I think things are changing for next year. And I think that next year will be Amon-Ra St. Brown's bust-ish type of year. And this is for redraft leagues. I'm not saying for dynasty purposes. Here's the thing. The Lions could easily move on from Jared Goff in the offseason with their top 5. I think they have the 3rd or 4th draft pick this year.
From the Rams, yeah. And depending on where the Rams finish.
And if they keep it, depending on how the draft goes, it's a little too early to really pin down what the draft order is going to look like. But there is a chance that they could land like Bryce Young or maybe like Tyler Van Dyke even, who could be better than Jared Goff, but not in their rookie seasons. And I'm not even like Bryce Young may have to have some type of adjustment in the NFL too. So I think that next year could be a downward regression year for Amon-Ra St. Brown because of that early draft pick where they could move on from Jared Goff, because a better quarterback, they have the receiver nailed down. They have DeAndre Swift. Sure, if he could use another year, maybe, I don't know. But quarterback could really put them over to the edge and really help secure their playoff spot next year, as opposed to this year where they're like really battling for it. So that is my take. I think maybe in 2 years, if they get a rookie quarterback, Amon-Ra could shoot back up. That's why I think he's a great dynasty player. But for redraft leagues, Amon-Ra St. Brown could be valued as a 3rd-round pick next year, possibly a 4th round, and I don't think he's going to put up those numbers.
So
if they get a new quarterback, if Jared Goff stays the quarterback, I'm all in on Amon-Ra St. Brown.
So
I don't. Even if they get a quarterback, I don't think you could rule out Jared Goff starting next year.
So this is what I was going to say, and it goes off of what Bob says. Is I think you're right, John, where if they do bring in a rookie quarterback, Amon-Ra, I think definitely going to regress and not be as good. But am I like the only one who thinks that Jared Goff definitely deserves to start at quarterback next year? Like
100%.
Goff has played like Kirk Cousins got that buku contract a couple years ago, and Jared Goff's numbers are better.
The Lions are 500 now.
I think, John, you're absolutely right. If they do draft a rookie quarterback and they, for whatever, plug him in, week 1 starter, Amon-Ra is definitely going to regress. But it wouldn't shock me if the Lions just take best available with that 5th pick, whether it's a corner, whether it's a safety, whether it's an offensive tackle, whether it's a whoever the fuck it is. If they take just the best available to build around Goff and around these weapons that he clearly has chemistry with, the Lions are fun. You can't not root for them.
Lions are fun.
I don't think the Lions are going to draft a quarterback with that top pick, but let's even assume that they do. I just think Jared Goff is definitely going to keep starting for this team. This team isn't in the gutter. They just got back to 500. It's not like they're
on a winning streak too. They're like the Dolphins last year. They started off horrible and
I just can't.
Worked their way to playoff.
Maybe they draft a quarterback because they're thinking about their future beyond Goff, but I just can't. Their Lions are a borderline win now like team. Like they have their defense is the thing that needs the fixing, not the offense. I think they're not going to draft a quarterback, but in your scenario, John, if that did happen, I do think there would be a regression. I just don't think that's actually going to play out.
Okay. All right. I see it. Had to come in with something spicy.
Yeah. No, John, I love it. I love it. Keep on dumping that hot sauce on these takes, baby.
So, Paul, what is our next award that we have?
Yeah, so our next award is titled the Phillip Rivers Award.
Tell them why.
This one's
I will, and because this is really fun. When I first say Phillip Rivers Award, you're going to be like, "Oh, the guy who talks the most trash but doesn't curse." No, the Phillip Rivers Award is for the league slut. Phillip Rivers has like 18 kids. He's constantly
such a whore.
He's such a whore. He's constantly getting poo-tang. So this
is it with all different women too? I don't know
No, it's one wife.
Oh.
He's very Christian.
Wow,
we could call this the Antonio Cromartie Award too, but that's just not as fun.
It's not.
This is the league slut. This is the player who was on somebody's team, dropped, picked up by somebody else, dropped, picked up by somebody else, dropped, picked up by somebody else, and so on and so forth. So this is pretty much a guy who you saw on the waiver wire every other week, every 2 weeks, and you were like, oh, let's take a stab at him. And so, Bob, I will lead it off with you. Who is your Phillip Rivers Award nominee?
So this guy, I didn't personally own him at all at this point in the season, but he started the year on the waiver wire and made his way to a few of our teams in our redraft league, and that is Curtis Samuel.
Oh, yeah. Guilty.
Curtis Samuel.
Guilty.
Yeah, there we go.
This is like Saturday morning when you're talking to your homeboys in college, like, oh, and they're like, where were you? Where were you? And you're like, oh, I
have that.
I don't want to tell you. They're like, dude, I was there 2 weeks ago. How's our pet hamster doing? You're like, oh, he's actually pretty good. We were like,
oh, does she still do that thing when?
Yeah, right. No, you got to do that. Like,
she said that to me too.
No, Curtis Samuel performed, had a good game with you and not with me.
Right.
So Curtis Samuel was started out the year on the waiver wire, had a couple good games with Carson Wentz, got picked up, got dropped, got picked up again, then got traded, and then got dropped again after getting traded. I just never have seen a player move around as much as Curtis Samuel moved around for a player that wasn't bad at all. It's not like he didn't have any good games. He just moved around and was slutting around this entire season for a guy that actually was pretty decent for what everyone expected of him.
Yeah. That's a really good one, Bob. That's a really good one.
I knew that John had him. I didn't know that you had him too.
I picked him up in the waiver wires week 1. After week 1, I'm the original. I took Curtis Samuel's virginity.
He was the original What's in the Flex.
Yeah. I took Curtis Samuel's virginity for this league. So
he was on almost half the teams in our league this year.
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. He was my top nominee as well, but I have another guy mention it. But John, I will let you take the mic here. Who's your league slut, your Philip Rivers Award nominee?
My league slut was someone that was drafted 22 picks before Garrett Wilson.
Whoa.
Yeah, this guy was drafted in the 11th round, way too high, but that's because we didn't really know what was going to happen in this new offense, and that is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. That dude has seen every team in the league. He was that girl that you would just get with because you couldn't get with the chick you actually wanted to get with. So you're like, fuck it, I'll just pick up Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He'll be the classic plug and play, like reliable.
Because
maybe
Juju's hurt.
Maybe he'll have that great game with Patrick Mahomes. He had 2 where you're like, oh, he's good. Yeah, I can't believe he was drafted 2 rounds ahead of Garrett Wilson.
That's actually insane.
No, dude, she's actually really cool. You just got to get to know her.
Yeah, right. And just like Curtis Samuel, he was dropped multiple times. He was traded, and 4 days after he was traded, he was dropped.
Oh my God.
I'm going to nominate Marquez Valdes-Scantling as the league slut. And honestly, MVS Curtis Samuel, those are very good awards or nominees so far. Paul, can you top that?
Man, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, that's just so funny. That's like the girl that you see at a bar and you're like, wait, there's no way she looks that good. You like, wait a second. He's coming off of a fresh 30-point game. He caught 2 50-yard bombs, and then he shits the bed for you. So both phenomenal nominees, guys, Curtis Samuel and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I'm going to go with a guy where this one didn't really age super well because he has put up awesome numbers in the past 2 weeks. But I swear to God, I think that Zay Jones from week 1 up until like a couple weeks ago was on the waiver wire every time I looked there. Let's just go through. I have it looked up. Let's go through his game log. Week 1, 12 points. Serviceable. Was definitely picked up off the waivers there. Week 2, 5 points. Somebody dropped him. Week 3, 24 points. Oh my God. Picked up. Week 4, didn't play because of injury. Week 5, 4 points against the Texans. Dropped again. Week 6, 9 points against the Colts. Okay. Week 7, 10 points against the Giants. Okay. 6 points the next week, 9 points the next week, 14 points in week 10. Definitely scooped up, had the bye. And then he got the 30-point game against the Ravens, followed by a 3-point game against the Lions in week 13. And then he went on to put on 21 and 36 points. And that leads us to where we are right now. But I know I had Zay Jones. I know John had Zay Jones.
I did. In the Dynasty League, I drafted Zay
John, because remember I picked up Zay Jones and I texted you. I said, thanks for dropping Zay Jones. And then I dropped him like the next week. So
that many good games just gets tossed around like that. What a fuck. It's crazy seeing like how the fantasy season like plays out and the players that you could just end up like snagging because everyone's like, oh, one bad game, get off my team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like those types of players are like the meme stocks where it's like it shoots up one day, you're like, buy, and then it just drops, you're like, sell. You just like never actually get profitable results out of these players. You always get them a little too late and you sell too early.
Yep. It's you're buying high and selling low. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, right.
You're absolutely right.
So funny. Damn. All right. Is there any honorable mentions for these? I
couldn't think of any other ones. Greg Dulcich I saw on the waiver wire, but I feel like that's all tight ends. They're all streamers, so I kept that out.
I had Donovan Peoples-Jones as my honorable mention just in case somebody mentions Zay Jones, but
Robert Tonyan maybe.
Yeah, again,
tight ends. We could write a book on tight ends.
Yeah,
that were passed around.
Bunch
all
of
right,
dirty sluts.
So this next award we have is actually going to be another fun one that we thought of, and that is the Antonio Brown Award. And no, we're not talking about the Antonio Brown that was the consensus wide receiver one for all those years in Pittsburgh. We're talking about the Antonio Brown that quit on the Bucs mid-game, took his shirt off, ran around the stadium like he was a streaker, and just got picked up, and no one saw him again after the game. So this is the player that lost his job during the season and basically just went crazy, for lack of a better phrase. So, Paul, I know you got someone good for this, so we'll start with you.
Yeah, my Antonio Brown Award is unfortunately somebody that I had on my team, and that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If you all remember, we did hold a fantasy funeral for our guy CEH.
Moment of silence.
In Jesus' name, Aman.
Yes. In Amon-Ra's name we pray. CEH. But yeah, dude, first 4 weeks were looking awesome. Clyde was putting up 20 points. Yes, he had 2 touchdowns a game, but I was ignoring that. I just thought that it would continue. And then a young man by the name of Isaiah Pacheco comes in and plays really well. Jerick McKinnon comes in and plays really well. And all of a sudden, the former first-round draft pick his rookie year, a lot of people took him in the first round coming out of college. Yeah. I don't know if he's going to be fantasy relevant anymore. Actually, I know that he's not going to be fantasy relevant anymore. We already held his funeral. He's dead.
He's dead.
Yeah. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you're not crazy. You're definitely not Antonio Brown, but you are just not making your way onto probably any fantasy lineups next year.
Unless there's a rash of injuries and
the Ravens pick up another veteran running
back. Another washed up veteran running back.
Yeah.
That's a good Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a very good one. Definitely someone that probably won't be drafted next year at all.
Will be the league slut next year.
Yeah. It is
around the waiver wire next year.
No, he'll have a good game week 1, and then he'll be like that. People will spend like 50% of their FOB and be like, he's the RB1 in Kansas City now. Pacheco sucks. Like, then he's not gonna do anything for the rest of the season. So, saving you the trouble, don't do it. He's not good.
People are gonna be like, dude, he's only 24 years old. Yeah, I don't care how old he is.
We know where this ends. So, question before actually we move on to John's. Do you think that Pacheco, because now he's probably the consensus RB1 in Kansas City, do you think he could be the next Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
I think he's passing the eye test more than Clyde is, because Clyde had a rough rookie year. He was highly drafted by me.
Wait, really?
I drafted him in the second round or the first?
John thought he was actually? That's why.
His rookie year, I was like, I think he's Saquon Barkley.
Oh, I didn't know that, John. I knew he was picked really early his rookie year.
Yeah, and he wasn't good. So, Pacheco is passing the eye test more than Clyde Edwards, so I'm going to say no to that, Bob. I really like Pacheco moving forward. The only problem is that he's on an unpredictable offense. Yeah. But it seems like they're starting to trust him, which is good, because you didn't see the trust in Clyde.
Yeah. The only thing that scares me with Pacheco is he gets all the rushing duty, and then Jerick McKinnon is exceptional in the passing game. Jerick McKinnon has 2 30-point weeks under his belt in the last 2 weeks. He is just playing really well, catching passes out of the backfield, which is obviously huge for PPR leagues. But I think Pacheco is certainly going to have a better NFL career than Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I think, again, I don't know. I wish I knew more about players' contracts, but Jerick McKinnon, I think that he's really boosting his value, which is helping the Chiefs, and that they could get some good draft picks from McKinnon if they really do trust Pacheco. And that is an amazing sign for Pacheco if they choose to trade McKinnon if his contract calls for it.
I don't think there's – I don't know McKinnon's contract situation, but I don't think maybe the Chiefs have finally figured something out for their backfield, to be honest. Maybe Pacheco's the handoff guy, the running back, the goal line guy, and McKinnon's like the third down guy catching passes out of the backfield and stuff. Maybe Kansas City finally figured out their backfield after Kareem Hunt left. So both could be fantasy relevant when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback. Maybe this is a Cleveland situation.
Ooh. I'm not a big fan of McKinnon. I know he's putting up those 30 points, but I don't know if I would ever draft him for some.
No, I wouldn't.
It would be very late. It would be like as like a bench stash or as an RB like 5.
It'd be a dart throw.
But still, yeah, it's something to think about for next season. Maybe Kansas City's figured something out and taking some of the pressure off Mahomes. But we'll see. Enough about the Kansas City backfield, though. John, who won your Antonio Brown award this season?
So this guy, I think it's safe to say he lost his job. I'm not sure it's safe to say he lost his mind like Antonio Brown, but it just doesn't seem like he has the team behind him. It doesn't seem like they trust him. Almost getting Carson Wentz vibes here. Clearly was never as good as Carson Wentz. He hasn't reached that point of skill yet, but this is Zach Wilson. And he played I know, Bob. I know. And I know you probably agree with me here.
I definitely do.
We all know what he said to that reporter when they lost 10-3 to the Patriots. They asked him if he felt like he let the defense down. The defense held the Patriots to 10 points, 1 touchdown, and Zach Wilson said no. Now, I watched this whole interview before I took some of these notes down, and quite honestly, I do think that the media really gassed up this story that Zach Wilson. Yeah, I do. The interview had
media does that?
Zach Wilson.
Media, wow, they have an agenda?
Zach Wilson,
out of context?
You could tell Zach Wilson was just trying to get the conversation done with, and here's the thing. The right answer was yes, I didn't do enough for the defense. That's what he should have said, but I think, one, he's young. He's not completely as like PR trained as some other veterans in the league, and I think he just said a stupid answer, and it just spiraled. And unfortunately, people can get affected by headlines. And I think that it just got worse and worse. He ended up getting benched. And also in that interview, he was making excuses, telling the reporters it was windy as hell out. It's like, that doesn't make your previous answer any better. So it just got worse and worse. He just kept going downhill once he told the reporters that he didn't think that he let the defense down. Then Mike fucking White came in and just lit things up, which makes things even worse. I mean, dude, once it rains, it pours. And that happened to Zach Wilson. Unfortunately, I think he's going to be on a new team next year, and there's even a chance that he could be a backup somewhere.
I don't think he'll be on a new team next year. I hope he is, so we could get something in return for him. Not that you would expect to get much at this point in time, but someone will probably take a gamble on him because he's the former 2nd overall pick, still obviously very young. But like you said, John, I think the biggest thing is that the locker room is behind Mike White, and they're clearly not behind Zach Wilson. You just hear some of the comments from the players. It's clear as day. So that goes without saying. Not much else to say there. As a Jets fan, it's tough. I think Mike White, not saying that he could be going to be Patrick Mahomes or anything like that, but Mike White at least is a competent quarterback and can make the easy throws. And Mike White just passes the eye test. Zach Wilson does not pass the eye test.
Yeah, he fits in with that offense, it seems like.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you would think all the MILFs that Zach Wilson hangs out with, that maybe he'd be a little more mature on the microphone. Who knows?
Nope.
No, I feel like MILFs like immature boys.
Yeah, they're like, oh, Zach.
Yeah.
You didn't clean your room today, Zachy.
You're so stupid. It was so windy.
Oh, God.
All right, yeah, Zach Wilson definitely is a nominee for the Antonio Brown Award. Bob, who do you have as your nominee?
So you guys already, I forget which one of you mentioned his name already, and that is Carson Wentz. This guy had some serious crazy highs, and he's starting to sink to serious crazy lows. Not quite Zach Wilson lows, but close. Carson Wentz, as we all know, should have won the MVP the year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. He got injured, unfortunately. And ever since then, it's been downhill for him. Went to the Colts, played there 1 year, was okay, and got traded. Basically, everyone said that they didn't like him. The owner didn't like him, got traded. Comes to the Redskins, plays a couple games, puts up good fantasy numbers.
Canceled.
The Commanders.
Oh, damn it.
We get canceled every time.
Nah, fuck it, dude. Fuck it. They're the Redskins.
Honestly, call whatever you want.
I don't care.
I don't care either. I
don't care. It's a fucking
put it on.
name.
Don't forget to put that on. They're the Redskins on the eye test. Anyway, Carson Wentz starts playing for the Redskins. He actually puts up good fantasy numbers. Not really winning games, it's about if the team likes him. Same stuff that was surfacing with the Colts last year. And then by a stroke of luck, he gets hurt, and then the team rallies around the backup Taylor Heineke, and the Redskins Commanders are
surprise, dude. The team rallies around the backup. Carson Wentz is like, again, dude.
And
why does this keep happening?
Honestly, I just don't know. And this is why I think not that there's been any reporting behind this or anything like that, but you got to think Carson Wentz is going crazy inside right now. He's been shunned by basically 3 locker rooms at this point. He gets injured all the time. How much longer is this guy really going to be in the NFL taking blows like this?
Yeah, he's coming on like 7 years. It's crazy to think that he's been in the league for that long.
Yeah, first, second overall pick.
Yeah, he will be a backup next year, and I can also see an early retirement out of him too, like a surprise Andrew Luck type of deal.
Yeah, I feel like it's just heading in that direction because you're talking 3 teams out of the 32 teams. It's almost 10% of teams in the NFL are just like, yeah, we don't want you here anymore. For whatever reason, he's a goody two shoes. I don't know.
He doesn't fit in, dude. I just don't think he fits in.
Yeah. And I'm honestly I'm tired of defending Carson Wentz, and I'm tired of defending the arm talent and the scramble ability and all this. I'm tired of that. Like, he clearly doesn't fit in an NFL locker room, and that has probably more volumes to speak than any of us and anybody listening can ever even know what that's like, because we've never been in an NFL locker room.
Yeah.
And also, he still hasn't figured out to get rid of the ball early. He still holds onto the ball for way too long, just like Zach Wilson does. And I'm afraid that Zach Wilson will probably never reach like the highs of Carson Wentz. I don't think, at least. But Zach Wilson reminds me of Carson Wentz. Like, that instinct, it's hard to get rid of that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's what plagued Lamar Jackson this year, man. You try to play magician, you try to play hero, and it just 9 times out of 10 it doesn't work.
So I think I do agree with you, John. I can see an early Carson Wentz retirement within the next 2 to 3 years, perhaps, if he doesn't get on track. Maybe he'll just play the rest of his career as a backup and rack in money, which, I mean, isn't a bad deal at all, obviously.
Yeah, he's paid already. What's the incentive? He's been paid big bucks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's so funny because, like, when Carson Wentz does do that early retirement, the ESPN's going to come out with the most skewed stats to make it seem like he had such a great year, and he's going to get some type of tribute from, like, Eagle fans. That's just how we are.
Right. That's the thing. Like, who is he going to sign a 1-day contract as and retire with? The
no,
Eagles
he's not that type of player. I don't think he won't get a 1-day contract. He's not that type of player at all.
Like Ed Reed signed a 1-day contract and was there for a Sunday game, and the crowd went nuts. Everybody was like, awesome. But Carson Wentz, like, who do you like? I think
he knows not to come to Philly for that.
He's irrelevant, dude. He's not getting that treatment. It's not like he's an all-time great or like a notable franchise guy.
He had one good year.
Yeah, he had one good year. Basically set the Eagles up to win the Super Bowl, but as we all know, he did not win the Super Bowl for the Eagles. So he's pretty irrelevant in all 3 of the franchises he's played for, their history.
The one good thing he did was the year after the Super Bowl, or it was actually 2 years after the Super Bowl, because he was dealing with injuries too the next year. But like, he did do that like really cool thing where we were the first team to make it to the playoffs where each receiver had like less than 1,000 yards or something like that. Like he spread the ball out perfectly between, I don't even remember the receivers, dude. Quez Watkins, Jalen Reagor, and someone else, and they all had less than 1,000 yards. Jordan Matthews came back or something like that, and it was like this crazy feat. We made it to the playoffs with Carson Wentz. We thought he was back, and then he gets a concussion against the Seahawks in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
We were like, like, get rid of this guy.
I remember because everyone was like, Carson Wentz led the Eagles to the playoffs, thrown to a bunch of lawn chairs, and I was like, shit, they're right.
It's like a good feeling. It's Carson Wentz is actually the truth. Like, he's back, and then it's just fucking concussion. We're like, God damn it, dude.
He got a concussion. He was like, all I care about is pussy. And then he just...
yeah, one pussy for the rest of his life.
Literally. That was a really bad joke. I think the wine's getting to me.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Enough about Carson Wentz. I'm tired of hearing him and bringing him onto this podcast. So this was episode 24 of the Eye Test. This was our first episode of our Fantasy Awards. As always, thank you for listening. We will be back tomorrow with part 2 of our Fantasy Season Awards, and we'll be starting off with the Peyton Manning Award. So
the MVP!
Though you don't want to miss out on that. Thank you, as always, for listening. We are on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all your lovely social media platforms.
Twitter.
Oh, and Twitter. I forgot. So follow us on Twitter as well. Thanks again for listening. Peace.